I'd like to welcome you here. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Arella Axelrod, and I'm here with my colleague Mackenzie Loy, and we're both customer success managers here at Bright Idea. And today we're going to be talking with two clients who we work with, both Jennifer Sari, who is an acceleration specialist at Bobcat, and Chris Parks, who is the Senior Manager of Corporate Strategy and Innovation from Southwest Airlines. And so we're going to be talking with you today about idea booths and innovation stations and how to creatively engage your hard-to-reach employees in your innovation program. So we're going to start off by taking a little straw poll just to get the audience perspective. Raise your hand if you have employees that you haven't tapped into yet with your innovation program. All right, at least 50%. Now, raise your hand if you have employees that don't sit at a desk and don't have access to a laptop. Almost the same amount, okay. And now, raise your hand if you have employees in multiple locations and you're overwhelmed thinking about how am I going to engage all of these employees in my innovation program? Okay. So thank you for participating. So a lot of you raised your hands. So a lot of companies, a lot of clients who we work with have employees that they haven't tapped into yet. And today we're going to focus on two client stories and two clients who have been able to do just that. They've been able to tap into employees that historically have not participated in their innovation program. And so we're really excited. Thank you both, Jen and Chris, for being here today. And so in terms of the format for today's session, we're going to start off with a spotlight on Bobcat to begin. It'll be about 20 minutes. And then we're going to transition to a spotlight on Southwest Airlines. And then we're going to save time at the end for audience questions. So if you have any questions for Jen, please write them down so that you remember. And so Jen, again, thank you for being here. She's the acceleration specialist with Bobcat. Her and I have worked together for the last year and a half or so, which has been great. And maybe some of you who were here last year remember that, sorry about that. So perhaps some of you who were here last year remember that she got an innovation award. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. But for now, I want to just reiterate that we're all here today because all employees' ideas matter. And everyone has the potential to share ideas that could positively impact your organization. Your employees are the closest to your services, your products, and your processes to be able to offer you feedback for improvements. And in order to include all of those employees in your program, even those that are hard to reach, you want to think outside the box and think creatively about what you can do differently to include those employees in your program. And again, Jen is here today as the acceleration specialist with Bobcat. And maybe some of you remember last year, she received an award on stage on behalf of Bobcat last year for the most creative innovation initiative. And we're super excited to have you back.
Super excited to be here.
To share your story with everybody. And so Jen, to begin, tell us more about your role at Bobcat.
So my official title is Acceleration Specialist. Basically, I'm on the innovation team at Bobcat. And my main role is our Groundbreaker system, which is our Bright Idea system. We call it Groundbreaker internally. And I work with the business units and directors and whoever is looking to maybe solve a problem, looking maybe to innovate a product or a process. So that's my main role. I have many other hats that I do wear, but that is my main one.
Great. And you're the primary person that's running all the challenges at Bobcat right now.
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay, great. And so Jennifer works with a dedicated team at Bobcat that is totally focused on innovation. So Jen, tell us more about this really fun photo.
This is my crazy team. And we always say that, we want to be the craziest people in the room, that where we can give people an opportunity to share their ideas and not worry about people looking at them thinking that they're weird or crazy, that we've already taken that hat. So we can just get that off the table right away.
And could you tell the audience a little bit more about your innovation program and how you've evolved it over the last few years?
Yeah, so we've started out with just running time box challenges, and we realized that we needed to maybe beef it up a little bit. And Bright Idea's done a great job of innovating their product to help us do that easily, where we don't have to do a lot of the thinking. They've done it already, so we can take it into action and work work with our company to get ideas implemented quicker and faster.
Awesome. So I'm sure that other people have seen this in other sessions, our corporate innovation journey. And we at Bright Idea, especially in our role as customer success managers, are focused on helping our customers to move through this innovation journey. And Jen, you and your team have really created an innovation, a culture of innovation at Bobcat, starting off with the programs product, running a lot of time box challenges, to embracing our labs and our transformation products. What approach did you take to achieve that?
I think it was just understanding the products themselves and then going out to the company and explaining how they work and maybe looking for different opportunities to use them. I mean, that's the biggest thing is talking and finding out what people are looking for and what the needs of their teams are, and then being able to implement some of the resources that we have available.
And tell them about the goal that you set for yourself.
So a goal that I set for myself this year is to run at least one challenge in all of the apps. So I'm pretty close. I still have a little bit of work to do, but super. And then they go and implement a couple more, but that's how it goes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a great goal. I don't think a lot of our clients have done that yet. So I hope other people are inspired and think about using all the apps to run challenges in different departments in your organization. So I had an opportunity to visit Bobcat and see Jen and her team in person, and they have this amazing acceleration center that's dedicated for innovation. Jen, can you tell us more about this space that you have?
So this is a $28 million renovation project, and it all started with us knowing that if we're not innovating, we're going to slowly die. So we need to constantly be looking for different ways. So this building, it doesn't have any offices, so we have open seating where everybody. I mean, right now I'm sitting next to the VP of engineering, and you can sit where you need to. You go where the work is basically what the challenge is. And so oftentimes when I'm working with a team on a challenge, I go in, I sit next to them, and just to find out what their team dynamic is, but then also to kind of get answer questions and different stuff that they may have or help them through the challenge. We have a ride and drive facility that we can go out and drive machinery in the winter in North Dakota. We are able to showcase it to our customers and dealers, and we have a test facility in the back. So it's all about innovation. When we designed it, it was designed, following many innovative companies and around the world. So yeah, super exciting and fun to go to work every day.
It's really cool. Yeah. Can you tell them more about the products that Bobcat manufactures?
Yep. So we do skid steers. We have excavators, and then Doosan also has heavy equipment.
And you work with a lot of construction companies and farmers. And
Yeah.
I got to actually drive like 2 or 3 of their products and like pick dirt up and then like ride it around and drop the dirt off. It was super fun.
She did really well too.
Well, construction is in my family. My dad is a carpenter, so I think that
I think
that may have helped. Yeah, I've got it in my blood. All right, so thank you. Yeah, it was super impressive to see that facility. Really, really cool. So now, Jen, can you explain this photo to the audience?
Yeah, so this is our idea booth, and the idea booth came into tuition when we were trying to think of ways for our manufacturing floor to enter ideas, and one of the things that we talked about is we need to make it easy and we need to make it accessible for them. Well, this did a few things where we were able to set up a computer in it, we were able to put an Amazon Alexa in it, but then we were also able to market our program with it. When this shows up, people know that something's going on and it gets them excited. And so now when the idea booth shows up in the factory, they know that a challenge is ready to be launched.
And then a lot of the employees don't have access to a laptop. They don't have cell phones. So like this is an instance where there's no laptops available, no cell phones available. So they had to think outside the box
Yeah.
in terms of how you could include your employees. And so, what valuable, why did you engage this group to begin with? Like what valuable feedback do they have to share with Bobcat?
So we started our innovation journey with our business community, which is our salaried workforce. And that, I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was easier because they sat at a computer every day. They were able to enter their ideas. But what we found as we went through it is we're missing a big piece. And that's the people that manufacture our equipment day in and day out, and they have a lot of great ideas. And so we knew we needed to engage them somehow. And And that's kind of when we started down the operations
Right.
community
That's
challenge.
great. They're like closest to the product, to the creation of the
Right,
product, to be able
yeah.
to offer that feedback. Somebody who's sitting in an office in a different location wouldn't really be able to offer that same sort of
No.
feedback as somebody who's on the line. Okay, great. So it's an interesting concept, right? I mean, this is a vintage photo booth that they found somewhere. I'm curious to know, like, where did you find this booth and whose idea was it?
So it was funny. We had just gotten off the phone with Genevieve and the product team, and we were looking. They were trying to they wanted to pilot the Amazon Alexa, and so we needed to have a place for it. And we, going through all this stuff, and so we wrote it out. Here we are in a room full of whiteboards, and there's a window, and we wrote the idea booth on the window, and like it came to fruition that way. And so we decided we needed one. We ordered it online, and I guess the rest is history. We made a few accommodations in it. We put a little shelf. There's a fan that because it gets hot with the computer in there. So we just kind of did some different things to make it ours.
Very cool.
Yep.
And it gave people a place to have some privacy so that when they wanted to submit their idea, it was in the break room. So rather than being in the break room with a lot of other people there, a lot of sound, they could kind of go in here. And it's actually very loud. The floor, like the manufacturing
it's
lines,
very loud.
building the equipment that they have, it's like, really quite loud at times. We actually had to wear earplugs the whole time that we were there, like a headset. So
Mhm. That's why we needed someplace quiet, someplace where
yeah, that's
wouldn't
awesome.
interfere with the work that was
How did the
happening.
employees respond to the idea booth? How did that go?
Yeah, so I mean, you can imagine you're working on the manufacturing floor and you walk into your break room and you see this crazy looking booth. So there was a lot of talk. And when there's talk, there's marketing for your program. So they were, there was a few like, what the world is going on? But as we went on it, people got excited about it. And we're really super excited still about it.
And last question, out of all the different ways that somebody could submit an idea, what did people gravitate toward the most?
So we have 4 different ways that you can submit an idea. We have a computer that's set up in there. We have an Amazon Alexa. We have an iPad, and then we have just the paper submission form. And most people gravitated towards that paper submission form just because it was easy. They could grab it, take it out to their line and fill it out, maybe take it home.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool. All right. So, in the past, we've talked about how important it was to effectively market this first challenge and the pilot that you did. So, tell us more about the steps that you did to effectively market the challenge.
So marketing it, I was everywhere they could be. So we have shift startup every morning, basically, and that's where the teams come together and talk about their build for the day, any challenges that they may be facing. And so I showed up there. Sat there next to the booth. They got to know me as the crazy lady next to the booth. And I was there. I printed out papers, and this is what your break room tables would look like, where the papers were just strewn out, like with different ideas that had maybe been submitted. I put up marketing stuff on the time clocks, the coffee machine, the microwave, anywhere that I could think of that people would be standing around so we could talk about the program and what we were looking for.
Yeah, you did a really great job with building the relationship.
Yeah, I think that's important.
And it was in person that she did that. So it wasn't just sending out an invite to have them participate in the challenge. It was actually meeting these people, talking with them, and educating them. And so you did a really great job with that. So to this topic, this is the educational flyer that was used to help market the challenge. Jen, you want to share a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so this is just something that I put together quickly, just kind of to get people's eyes. Here we have kind of some of the prizes that we offered for the challenge. We have the idea booth, and then just basically what we were looking for, and giving people opportunities to hear about it and understand the concepts. And yeah, it was good. This was
great. All right, and so the first challenge and the initial pilot. So first, tell us more about the first challenge, like the topic, like what the purpose of that challenge was, and what the results were that came from that first challenge.
Yeah, so we ran a pilot first and kind of worked through some of the kinks of running a pilot and some of the challenges that we ran into when running it. But then our first challenge, we invited 100 people to participate, and that included 100 hourly employees, sorry. And so out of those 100 people, 86 ideas were submitted, with 26 of them being implemented. So we had some great success. And And I think the success came from, just getting that out there and getting people to understand it a little bit more, what the innovation program was, because before this they had not been seeing anything like it before.
Great. All right, and so this is the paper submission form that was used. So Jen had referenced that this was the primary way that people submitted their ideas, and it's a very simple form. It includes the employee ID, first name, last name, title, and description. Um, so once somebody filled out this form to submit their idea, like how did you actually get it into the Bright Idea
Yep.
platform?
So I just scan it in and am able to upload it using the OCR technology. It's pretty quick, simple, and it helps a lot, especially when you think about many people submitting ideas. This makes the process a little bit faster and less time consuming on my part.
Right. Okay. Great. So it's pretty easy.
Oh yeah,
Very easy to do.
Yep.
And were you able to read people's handwriting okay? Like how'd that go?
Yeah, that can be a challenge sometimes. I mean, I can't read my own handwriting, so it's hard to read others sometimes.
So sometimes you have to decipher a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah. But for the most part, it's pretty painless.
Okay, great. All right, so this is such a great photo. I love this photo. Tell us more about why you chose to use incentives for this first challenge that you did with your manufacturing floor people.
First off, look how happy they are. Like, this was exciting. This is one of my favorite photos. Like, I just love looking back and thinking about the progress that we made. When I first showed up to market this challenge, I had a lot of looks like, oh, this lady, what's going on here? And now to see afterwards the smiles that people had on their face is super exciting. And just, I mean, I think when you're on a manufacturing floor and aren't sitting at a computer day in and day out, you may have an idea, but it's hard for you to give somebody that idea. Where when we offered people, 4 different ways of give us your idea, they felt like they were listened to. And that's what these 2 employees are, that's where they came from. I mean, we listened to their ideas, and the gentleman here, his was the top evaluated idea. So the evaluation took place after the challenge closed with the plant manager and the business unit managers and different people like that. And his idea was chosen to be number 1. And as for the lady, everybody that submitted an idea, we put their ideas into the Yeti cooler and drew them out. And she happened to be the winner.
So that was a fun way to do it.
Oh yeah, super fun.
So one person could, somebody would win, and it could have been anybody.
Could have been anybody, even if your idea wasn't implemented.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, they are super happy, and they look
are
really
super. I love it.
Great photo. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So Jen, you were really instrumental in running both the pilot and the challenge, and would love to hear some of the lessons that you learned that you took away that would make it easier for you to do this in the future.
Right. So one of the first lessons I learned is the challenge topic has to have impact. And it has to have business impact. I mean, we've talked about that, but it also has to have employee impact. And we need to make sure that we're listening to their voice and understanding what their needs are. And I think that's one of the keys is making sure that when we run a challenge, especially for the manufacturing floor, that it has some type of impact for them. The next one is establish trust. And like Arella said, I was on the floor. I walked up and down the lines. I made a lot of new friends, and the trust was to get their idea, but then also to implement their ideas. So we can gather ideas all day long, and it's all fun. And I love looking at how many business units participated and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's how many we've implemented and what we've listened to. Next one is you need a commitment from the challenge owner up front that they're going to do something with the ideas. When I think about when we first started our program and how I was begging people to maybe run a challenge with me, and that works to get yourself going, but you have to have somebody that's committed to doing something when the challenge closes. And communication. I think about this even with our salaried workforce. When a challenge opens and we send out email, we see a huge spike in participation, and then it quickly dwindles. And the same thing for operations. We communicated over and over the same message. We want your ideas. We want to do something with your ideas, and your ideas matter.
Awesome. That's great. Very cool. All right. And so, I mean, since that first challenge that you ran along with the pilot, you've run other challenges. So tell us more about how you evolved the process and made it better to capture these employees' ideas.
Yes, so I think about when we started our pilot challenge, we had one computer in a break room way away from the line, and it was hard for these employees. It was difficult for them to find the time and go in there and enter their ideas. So we implemented a few new things where we put an iPad on the line, so then they can go and get an iPad, take a picture, and submit their idea. We put the idea booth where we have technology that was specifically for the challenge that we were running or for our groundbreaker system. The paper submissions made it super easy to get their ideas. So yeah, we learned at the beginning that we needed to make it easy, and we needed to do it so they were able to easily enter ideas.
Right. Yeah, that's great. The iPads you didn't use in the first challenge.
We did not. All we had was a computer that was for other things that did not have anything to do with our groundbreaker
And
site.
how were you able to get the backing and get the endorsement to get the budget to add the iPads to all the lines?
So we have a super committed, I mean, our executives are committed to innovation and they understand the importance. And they knew that we needed to make it easy also. And the iPads, I mean, when you're working on a factory floor, you can't use your cell phone where, some of us take that for granted, where we could just take it out, open up the Bright Idea app and submit an idea where they don't have that on the ground floor.
Right. Great. Well, this is an awesome story. Jen, thanks so much for being here today to share the story with everybody. We really appreciate it. And hopefully you've got some inspiration here in terms of how you can creatively engage some employees that you're not tapping into right now into your program. We're going to have a spotlight next on Southwest Airlines. For those of you who do have questions for Jen, please write them down so you remember. We're going to be taking audience questions at the end. Thank you so much.
Can y'all hear me? I think so, yep. All right. So I'd like to introduce, Chris Parks from Southwest Airlines here. Chris, do you want to give a little introduction?
Hey everybody, my name's Chris. I am a senior manager in our corporate strategy and innovation department. We founded ourselves about a year and a half ago, but I've been with the company a little over 10 years, mostly in commercial functions like revenue management and marketing.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to jump in here. Chris, why did you ask me to include this slide?
Yeah, sure.
And who is this?
Doesn't everybody know who this is? No. So the topic here is about how to reach your employees and a little bit around grassroots innovation. And so when Mackenzie and I were talking about it, she was like, why did you guys start with this? And I kind of thought about it. It's like, actually, it was pretty natural for us. Our founder, Herb Kelleher, who started our airline and we launched in 1971, has instituted a culture where our people are our greatest power or weapon, secret sauce to what makes Southwest really unique and why customers come back time and time again. And so when we started the Innovation Center, we knew that we had to tap into that potential. They are on the front lines of our operation and welcoming and caring for our customers every day. And so we knew we needed to establish something that included them in our innovation process.
Okay, and so you mentioned Innovation Center, and I know that the innovation stations are a part of that center and the whole program, and obviously is in the title of this panel. So what are they?
Sure.
Where are they? How'd they come apart?
So from a corporate perspective, we do have a centralized innovation team, and so we're budgeted that way. But we did establish a network of innovation stations across our network. We have them from the East Coast all the way across the Bay to Oakland. Our headquarters are in Dallas, but most of our people work out in the field. They're in serving our customers in airports and on planes every day. And so we worked with our airport partners, our top airport partners. We also picked airports that were large enough to quarantine tests. If I picked an El Paso, I'd take over the whole airport with my idea. But with a Baltimore or Chicago Midway, I can focus it just on a few gates at a time. And so we established them at the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And so we have a fleet of 6 now.
Okay. And so within these innovation stations, I want you to talk a little bit about the process, the ideate,
Yep.
investigate, and incubate process. And then as you talk about that, what bright idea apps
Sure.
or products are you using?
So our language can be a little bit different, so that's why we wanted to bring it up. We have 3 main phases through our innovation pipeline called ideate, investigate, and incubate. Our ideate phase is where we're collecting challenges, understanding things that might need to be worked on, and also collecting ideas and imagining solutions for them. And our investigate phase is when we're basically doing rapid prototyping and we're building out those solutions and putting them in the hands of our customers or our employees to see if they even work or if people like them. And then in our incubate phase is where we'll take that proven solution and roll it out for maybe more of a 2-year type of a pilot program, where our incubate or our investigate prototyping is maybe a max about 2 months, to see if it's even viable for our company or operation to implement or scale to the rest of the business. And so Bright Idea has been really critical for us because of that breadth, that dispersed workforce that we talked about with our innovation stations to help crowdsource things across the country, and also scale my team. That's pretty small, around that 6 people. So in our ideate phase, we leverage understand and solve to gather insights and some challenges. And then we use solve to collect ideas, potential solutions, ideas from the field that could fix those issues. Once we have maybe a prioritized bunch, a dozen or so of those ideas, we'll move that into our incubate phase and use our investigate phase and use the incubate app for rapid prototyping. And that connects my team, which is mostly focused on the business of it, the outcomes, as well as our technology innovation team that helps us build new things. And then at the end, also the innovation station to help run the tests, collect feedback, let them know what's going on. And then we also use the incubate app for our pilot phase as well. So it's similar to rapid prototyping, but it's a little longer term. Our solutions are more robust and built to last a longer period of time.
So you guys are definitely merging programs and labs, kind of blending, and it's kind of the circular.
And they move together.
Okay, okay. So we've kind of given a little background of the innovation stations, right? Within them, the process, the ideate, investigate, incubate process. Who were you guys trying to reach? I think we all probably have a hint in here, right?
Sure.
Engaging the hard to reach, but who were you trying to reach?
So our first focus was our ground operations team. These are your customer service agents, your operations agents scanning your boarding pass, and your ramp agents below the wing. We have, as most airlines do, a hard time innovating tons in the aircraft. That's a space that's highly regulated, and so we wanted to start with a place where we could try out new ideas a little bit more quickly. And so we targeted this work group. What's unique about them is that the agent level is highly unionized, so we have to be really communicative with that work group and their union leadership to just make sure everybody understands that this is just a test. We want to see if they even like it. This is not role change or contract changing ideas. It's just to try to understand what could make their lives better. They also don't work in a typical office environment. They don't have their own computers. They don't typically use email a lot. Our gate agents are always transferring between different gates, and so they're on the move. And that would be the same with other work groups in the operations, like our pilots and our in-flight team. So we really love Bright Idea because we instituted single sign-on, which allows our employees, when they log into any workstation, it's tied to their employee ID, and they can just pop it up and start working with it. We also are really heavily using now the mobile app. So all of our team, some have iPads, most have their phones as well. And so when they're out in the field, they can really quickly submit ideas or problems that they're seeing. And then that is going to be really helpful when we start to scale to our pilots and our in-flight team, because they're equipped with iPads these days. So we thought that getting in front of these folks who are with our customers, welcoming them, can see what both the operation would need and what our customers want. And so that's why we found that this work group was the first one to tackle.
Nice. Okay, and so you mentioned that a lot of them are unionized, right? A little sneak peek here. What were we heard Bobcat talk a little bit about flyers, and Jen's out there like meeting and greeting and talking to them. So were you out at every innovation station?
I was. Took a lot of people out to dinner. So when we started this journey, we realized we couldn't just tell people about it. We actually needed to engage them and make them feel part of the team. So at Southwest, we have pretty robust practice and change management. So we partnered with that group to come up with a change plan that incorporates some marketing activities to bring our people on board. And you can see the 3 phases there. That general typical marketing, aware and excited, but then we wanted to continue to go even further and give them some tools so that they felt supported in this journey, and then continue to loop them in as tests are happening and we have results that we can share with them. And so you can see all of the different things that we instituted in this plan. But we thought it was really important because we need to shift the culture, not just let people know that innovation's a thing. So we have our employee plan, and then the next one is our leadership plan. This work group is non-unionized, and they're really important. So in a company like ours, with an operation that we have, we're very focused on reliability and making sure it runs smoothly every day. And so it can be really weird for our employees to be held to operational standards, standing operating procedure, and then here comes the innovation team and asks them to do everything different. And then tomorrow you got to go right back to standard operating procedure, even if you learned a better way to do things. And so we had to teach our leadership team at each of these innovation stations on how to lead through that. A good example of it is knowing when is the right time to innovate. And so you don't necessarily want your pilot trying new ways to land an aircraft while on approach. That's probably not the best time to try new things. But there are definitely opportunities to figure out solutions and try new ways. And so teaching our leadership at the stations when those are apparent and to lead their people through that was really important. So we were really proud. One of our big wins is we partnered with the University of Texas at Austin to launch an innovation academy. And so it's been really great to work with academic institutions because it makes it seem like we're not just making this up. It's like a legit thing. And so they have a school of design and creative technologies that has built custom curriculum for us around design thinking, innovation management, testing, feedback. And we have our second class is going on right now. We had our first inaugural class last year, and we've put 20 of our innovation station leaders through it last year. We're up to 25 this year, and we've added 5 of our in-flight base managers, which is our flight attendant group, to the class this year. And we have a ton of great feedback from that. And it's been really beneficial to teach them the methodology and then also just the language. When we come in and we're doing a test and we say all these like buzzwords, and they say they know what they understand and they want to help, and so they just use their warrior spirit to push through. But we found that then at the end of the day, they actually didn't truly understand. So let's give them a shared language so that when we come and we institute a test or we're collecting their ideas, they know what we're talking about, and then they have a great language to give us feedback and insights to the Innovation Center. And so it's been a big success for us.
Okay, so we've got our innovation stations. This is where we're ideating, we're figuring out solutions, we're investigating them, we're incubating them and actually prototyping. We're training everybody, and more of like a cultural shift, right? Like a macro change. And you guys all have the change management plans that Southwest use. So I think it's always important, like devil's in the details. Here you've got the details to do it yourself. So we've got all that. I think, show of hands, who here has ever flown Southwest?
Come on. Thank you.
Okay. So as a great group of customers here, is there anything that we've seen perhaps or might see that's come through this whole process?
You may have. If anybody has flown from Dallas or flew through Dallas Love Field, that's one of our innovation stations. Last fall, we tested a prototype we call digital wayfinding. We are trying to figure out a better name because it doesn't really make sense to people who don't know what it is. So if you have one, find me after. I'd love to talk about it. But this was a challenge we set out to solve last year, where we found 2 insights that needed some fixing. One is that we were having some crowding at our gate areas. So while Southwest has always been and will be a 737 airline, we do have larger 737s coming into our fleet now than what had been previously. So we're bringing on 800s and now MAX 8s that are seat 175 customers. Previously, our 700 series aircraft sat 143 customers. So each departure now has a lot more customers on it, but our terminal footprint didn't grow. And so in some of our airports, primarily like Love Field, that is smaller and that we run to max capacity, was having some overcrowding. So we wanted to figure out how might we load balance our terminal spaces to provide a more sense of a less crowded experience. The second insight we set out to solve for was we understand that our customers have higher levels of anxiety during their journey because they're not getting the right information at the right point of their journey to make them feel in control and understand what's going on. You guys all have flown a ton, and so you know lots of stuff can happen. And so it's really important to share with people that knowledge, but also share with them the right knowledge at the right time. And so we created a solution that has digital elements, post-security, all the way to the gate area, as well as a mobile experience to give customers that information and that knowledge. And we tested it at the Innovation Center in Dallas, and we're pretty proud of it. It's been winning some service design awards. We actually just won one in Dublin last night, so I'm not there. I'm here with you guys, but I've been loving San Francisco the same. And using that process and using Bright Idea to collect insights was really beneficial for us.
Okay, so how have you measured impact? I feel like is a theme of, well, innovation right now. So how have you measured the impact of digital wayfinding?
For digital wayfinding, we use 6 different types of research. The ones that I'll just briefly mention is our Net Promoter Score and survey data comparison. So we, as a company, have a standardized customer experience survey that gets sent out to a sample of customers after every flight. And so we're able to pull out Net Promoter Score information as well as customer satisfaction statistics. And we only implemented the prototype to half of Dallas Love Field, and so we had a control half as well. So we were able to statistically compare, did this improve the customer experience by having the signs in versus not having the signs in. And the other one that I really enjoyed was just customer employee observation. And so this prototype coincided with our first class of the Innovation Academy. And so we leveraged this as a fieldwork opportunity for these leaders. And so we brought them into the airport and gave them iPads to record customer interactions with the signage, maybe actually interact with the customer, ask them what they think, start to use those skills about observation and customer feedback to kind of burn in what they were being taught more academically, and then also selfishly get some feedback for our prototype as well.
And so just for these methods, did the budget and the time from you guys, or?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, we're a centralized innovation team, so all of the budget for prototyping and idea management comes from a central source within the corporate strategy and innovation department.
Okay. So then taking a step back from the digital wayfinding, what are some of the ways and metrics for you guys as a little bit of an innovation team as a whole, but focus more like on the innovation stations?
Sure.
How do you know it's making a difference?
So I'll admit we probably aren't the best at recording our performance, but Bright Ideas helped us a ton in doing that because we can store it on the fly versus try to remember about it. And so we have grown our ability to interact with our employees. You can see we basically went from nothing late last year to really an engaged workforce in our innovation stations. But what I love the most are just, and maybe this is, the cheese in me, but like the quotes from our people. And so you have a couple up here. One came from our managing director that's kind of over all of our ground operations teams across the network. And he had been comparing it to other attempts to try to find new solutions. And previously, people would just kind of show up at the airport and our people would just put, their warrior spirits on and try to help as much as they could. But what they found is that our very intentional process, our very intentional training has let them feel more engaged and more of a part of the team than had ever been felt before. And so that's kind of a big win for me. And then the other one I loved was in Phoenix, our assistant station manager, who she went through our Innovation Academy last fall, started using the process and the results. And so they've really enjoyed them being just the part of that and the heart of what we do. And they've started to find ways to test new solutions even without us. And so I can now scale my team for some of those really core ideas. They can just now do on the fly because they have the skills and the understanding to go and do it with our support. So a lot of times they'll still need like technology support from us. We'll give them some tools, but the whole concept development and testing plan is generated by them.
Okay, so I'd say you guys were pretty successful, for
Trying.
for the last couple of years. I think within here, I saw a lot of nods for unionize, all the hands, right, of folks you haven't reached. So, for everyone in the room here, what are some of the things that you guys learned that maybe we can save some of the pain, or what would you recommend doing next
Yeah.
time?
So the first one, and this kind of ebbs and flows for us, is an executive mandate. Knowing that you're going out to the field and touching a lot of employees, you have to have their leaders buy-in to give you the cover to go and kind of impact their day-to-day. When I'm out in the field and I'm working with these people, they are doing their best to keep the operation running reliably so everybody, all of our customers can get there on time and provide the level of hospitality that we want to give our customers when they step into our airports or on our planes. And so asking them to do this kind of stuff on the side is incremental. And so you want to have the executive buy-in and the support for that to recognize that they are going above and beyond. So it's not just getting approval, but it's having that leader in the field with them saying, good job, thank you for doing this, you're making this a better place. And that just really goes a long way. Also, just designate safe places to learn. Like I said before, and people just show up at our airports to try new things, it just threw everybody for a loop. But if you can just name and claim that this is a place that you're going to do testing, you're going to submit or solicit ideas, it makes people just understand what they're expected to do and what they can expect of us and support. The third is, like I mentioned before, develop a shared language. And so do some training and education programs so that everybody feels they're a part of the team and they're on the same page. Innovation and new ideas can be very buzzwordy. And for an operating group that's kind of sometimes done the same thing since 1971, that can feel a little consultanty and not very Southwesty. And so we wanted to make sure that we were doing it in our own way and including them. And then the fourth is recognize and reward. Tell them that they're doing exactly what you would ask them to do and reward them for their extra participation. So we integrated our innovation station system with our SWAG, which is our employee recognition program across the company. And we have the company's largest ever grant of SWAG points at 750,000 that we give away to our employees that participate and engage with innovation. And so that's helped us kind of engage and recognize in a consistent way the way that their leaders recognize their people.
Okay, so there's some tips and tricks there from Chris and Southwest. Sure. Thank you, and we're going to invite Jen back up here and do a little time for Q&A. We've got Jesse and Michelle in the back with mics, so if you could raise your hand, wait till the mic gets to you so everyone can hear you. We got it on recording. This is your opportunity. Any questions? Oh, yeah.
Hello? Hello? Yeah? Okay. Sorry. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting to see these kind of things. I also see them in my country and where we have to engage people, especially where, like you said, they don't have computers. They feel like they're disconnected from the rest of the business, but they're the ones who have contact with the customer, which is really important. So I want to know, basically in the part of the communication, like you said, you reward them, but at the same time you have to recognize them or to show this. If they don't have emails, if they work on the ground floor, how do you get to them? How do you expose them to the rest of the company or get them to know, all of these people to know that one of their coworkers did something amazing? How can you achieve that? For any of you, I mean.
Sure. Want me to go first?
You can go first.
Sure. So like I mentioned, we integrated with SWAG, which is our employee recognition system. And so all of our employees have access to their SWAG portal. And so those points can get them anything from Rapid Rewards points, which is our loyalty currency, or they can just buy stuff, like your credit card shopping malls type things. So that's a good point. We wanted to integrate with something that already existed that people were already tied into versus creating something from scratch. The other thing that we do, and it's kind of cheesy, but it's what we do, is we'll go and just recognize them in person, whether it's sending gifts and hosting them at parties. We love to party as an airline, and so doing that makes people feel really good and included too. It seems simple, but it's really one of the best things to do.
Yeah, so one of the ways that we did it is when employees would enter ideas into a challenge, I would show up at their shift startup where all of their colleagues are there and give them 100 grand bars saying, thank you, we appreciate your ideas. we also used our screens around the building where we would have their pictures up or the ideas that maybe they submitted. Thank you.
Making it easy for you. All right, I got a question for Jennifer. I see that actually on your idea collection paper is the top one, right? And then I see you have different options out there. I want to know more about Alexa. As far as the ranking goes, where is it, and also general sort of feedback from your employees.
So Alexa, we've worked with Bright Idea a little bit, and they've made some tweaks to Alexa, so it's a little bit easier to do. I would say that it's probably the last as far as people using it, which surprised me because I thought maybe more would gravitate toward it. But I think it's just people do what's comfortable, and since we did have that paper submission, I think that's where they gravitated towards. We did use it a little bit with our salaried workforce and had about the same. Not as many people used it.
All right. Well, thank you. And one last question is a simple one. So the phone booth, did you build it yourself or did you buy it somewhere else? Really
No.
great London, phone booth.
So when the idea came, we thought about it. Like, well, we could build it out in the back, but we decided to order it instead, and then we just modified the phone booth to idea booth.
So I have a question about the is it the Innovation Academy?
Sure.
Is that what you guys have?
Yes,
And if you could elaborate further on that, is that kind of where you had gone through the process of removing the innovation buzzwords? Are those two separate initiatives? I don't know. Apologies if I missed it, but what is that Innovation Academy? And
Sure. So we worked with the University of Texas at Austin to create a design thinking and innovation curriculum that's customized for our company and our workforce. And so it's a session they go for 3 weeks throughout a semester to learn all of the concepts that we all use in our daily practices. And so by giving them that same knowledge and shared language, it removed the mistranslations that happen when we can sometimes tend to use industry specific or innovation type buzzwords. So we didn't necessarily always get rid of it, but at least they understand what it's communicating and what we're meaning by saying it.
just one quick follow up: were employees nominated to go, or could anybody go?
So this was for our leadership groups in our innovation stations only, and then we worked with our executive leaders over that department to nominate and pick kind of top tier people that they thought would lead the best in this new field.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, Chris.
Sure.
You say that you have 6 innovation stations across the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some type of rotational cadence for your team members? And what would that consist of?
Sure. So team members in the innovation center or
Yes.
the ground operations folks in the stations?
Within the innovation center.
So we don't. There's only 5 of us, so we kind of go where the fire is. So we've been to them all, and sometimes we'll go to Phoenix when it's 165 degrees on the ramp to test something because we need to know if it's going to melt, which things melt. And then we need to go to Chicago to see if things freeze. And so sometimes seasonality plays into that, or just what the thing we're trying to learn about, is it more helpful to learn it in a Baltimore or an Oakland?
The leadership dinners. It's interesting because you said you went to a lot of dinners. Did you have a set agenda and
So that was part of our change management plan. So we had a few for each station. Depending on the station, Chicago is one of our largest. So they have 10,000-ish employees, hundreds of leaders. And so we needed to make sure we reached all of them. And so our agenda there was one, just to recognize them and kind of celebrate them that they got picked. Their executive leaders came. So we wanted to make sure that they understand that this was a privilege and this was something special that they get to participate in. This isn't just something extra that they get to work on. And so making it kind of fancy helped us communicate that. And then it was also kind of we did some pre-read communication with letters from their executives and some gifts, but then this was the first time they got to meet us. And so we thought it was really important to be in person and start building those relationships because we were going to be in their hair. And so friendships always help work go faster.
How big were those dinners? Were they intimate, 5 people, 10
It depended on the station, depending on how many people accepted. So Baltimore, we maybe had around 50 to 75-ish. Oakland was around our smallish, that was more around 20.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So, in terms of engaging union workers, is there any structure that you have to have in place if they want to take a project maybe after designated hours or they're submitting ideas? So,
Yeah.
is there anything you have to kind of structure?
So that type of stuff doesn't hold us back because we just work within schedules. So we'll work with our innovation station leadership to work with the people who are already scheduled that day. So we don't try to tend to people off what they're already working. But we have to be really clear and communicative with their union leadership to have them understand what this idea is and how it may affect their teams. So we work with our labor relations department very closely on everything that we do, and then they facilitate communication with the union leadership. What's really awesome about grassroots innovation is when you can say it's actually coming from an employee and it's not something that's generated from headquarters. Not only is the idea probably better, it's actually something that they would want, and so the support for it across the board from union to executive leadership is just through the roof.
Another question: since you started from the bottom to gather ideas from your employees, were they motivated at the beginning? Like, hey, we have an open challenge, and they were like, yeah, sure, let's go submit ideas, or they were like, oh, I don't feel like my ideas are going to be listened. You had to like motivate them to participate, or it was spontaneous?
Yeah, I think that's where the communication over, telling them over and over again that we really want your ideas, and then making sure that you implement them. We've gotten that where, well, I've told somebody for years that I want this idea implemented and nobody's ever listened. And that's where that trust comes in, where I say, you've never told me and I'm willing to listen and trust me and to see where your idea can go. And then making sure that you follow up and let them know, this is the reason why we couldn't implement it, or, those are the steps that we're taking to implement it.
I'm lucky it was really easy. We have a passionate group of employees that will tell me anything that they want me to know. And so we had talked a little bit about, we did start with an open innovation platform where anybody could submit any ideas. Our corporate communications department did that, but that really failed because there wasn't the bandwidth on our end to manage those ideas and manage the communication back. So we've pulled that back and worked with Bright Idea to make sure that our challenges are very specific to problems that we're trying to solve for, and they're time boxed. And so participation is very clear on what that schedule looks like.
We have time for, I think, one last question. So, anybody? No?
So the pilot that you ran at Bobcat, how did you said 100 employees. How did you do that? Because they're all on the line. Nobody has email addresses. Like,
Yep. So that was, showing up at those shift startups when everybody was there. And we did a couple shift startups because not everybody works first shift. So we had to do second and third shift also.
okay. And then once you got to 100 people, you just said you stopped showing up?
No. So it was a time box, right? So we had a specific time, and those are the people that submitted or checked in during that time frame.
We can fit your.
Topic, but just in terms of that, are you guys scaling that idea booth to other places? Or?
We have talked about that, yes. Yep, to some of our other manufacturing facilities, yep. Yeah, so I think we'll probably have to get a couple more to bring out rather than trying to haul that one, but yeah. Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I know we had a lot of good competition in other sessions, so thank you guys. I think real quick, as Arella opened with, and I saw a lot of heads nodding, right? Why you're here is because all of your employees' ideas matter, not just the ones who happen to be sitting at the desk or maybe sitting next to you, right, in the acceleration center. So, if you're running targeted challenges, you know that having a wide and diverse audience is the ones that give you the best and most effective ideas. Likewise, if you have, more of a lab situation, you need that feedback, and you need feedback from a good group and not just one perspective. So, as you guys head out and continue on your innovation journeys, make sure you're leveraging what I think is probably one of your most valuable assets, right? That audience. And so just a couple of questions. We didn't have you guys do any homework today, so you got a few action items from this session, which is to think about, how many ideas have you had come from the front lines? Chris before had said 0, right? Before they started this. So do you have 0? Do you have 1? Do you have hundreds? I think it's probably less than a handful, right? So if that's the case, then what's your starting point for reaching out? Is it a phone booth, cone idea booth? Is it innovation stations? What's yours look like? And what limitations are unique to you? Is it unionized? Is it no phones, no desktop, right? And how can you really adapt to those unique environments? So think about that. If you guys are feeling a little overwhelmed, that's what your customer success managers and all of us at Bright Idea are here for, and as well as this network to really support you guys on that. So thank you again for taking the time today. If you guys could take some extra few minutes to rate us on the app, we would love your guys' feedback, and I promise we will read all of it, and we will take that feedback, and hopefully you'll see us next year, and we'll have implemented that. So thank you again for taking the time today, and thank you, Jen, and thank you, Chris.